Good afternoon. Hundreds of residents remain without a place to stay as fire crews continue to battle a high-rise fire in Thorncliffe Park.
Emergency officials say flames are traveling through the building's insulation, making them extremely difficult to put out. CTV's Janice Golding has been following the firefighting effort and joins us live now with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Natalie. Well, we're just across the street from the buildings in question, and as you may be able to see, there are still a large number of emergency vehicles on scene as fire officials try to put out this very complex 5-alarm blaze. Now, overnight, we are told that they had up to 77 fire trucks that were here working rotating shifts overnight. At this point, you can't actually see any signs of an active fire, but fire officials say that's because the blaze has been spreading behind the walls, which makes it incredibly difficult to tackle. In fact, crews say every time they think they have the fire knocked down, it flares up again. The fire started yesterday afternoon in the parking garage of 11 Thorncliffe Park Drive, and by evening, the fire had spread to the building next door, 21 Overley Boulevard. Now, all of the residents in both buildings were evacuated due to high carbon monoxide levels, and we're told it could be days before they're allowed to return home. That being said, we've seen some messages that indicate that some of the residents are being allowed in as we speak to collect personal items from specific floors.
I was home.
Yeah.
And then I left just after 2 o'clock after the fire alarms went off. I got back around midnight and got told that I can't go home and got sent to the Thorncliffe Community Center, and that's where I spent the night.
It's frustrating. It's scary. You know, like to know if I can get into the unit. I know that our unit particularly hasn't been affected, but there's a lot of smoke.
The challenge right now is the location. What we have discovered is the insulation is between the buildings and between the walls. So this has to be a very meticulous and methodical and systematic approach. The firefighters can't just start cutting into walls and roofs of high-rise buildings, given gas lines, given hydro and power lines.
In times like this, it is so important that we work together as a community. And this is a very special community filled with so many families and seniors. I've already received messages from so many people wanting to help, from school principals to local neighbors.
Now, the fire chief says crews will remain here until the fire is completely out, but he has no timeline as to when that might be. He says it could be 12 hours, it could be 48 hours. And he says residents will not be allowed back home until 24 hours after that point. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Natalie.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Meanwhile, 2 people were taken to hospital, including one person in life-threatening condition following a house fire in Scarborough.
Flames broke out at a home on Dulverton Road near Lawrence and Birchmount early this morning. CTV's Beth McDonnell has been following this story and joins us live now with more. Beth?
Pauline, the fire broke out around 1:30 this morning. This is on Dulverton Road near Lawrence and Birchmount. And when crews arrived, they say there were heavy flames and smoke, and they discovered a person in the basement. They described this fire as very difficult and stubborn. The crews say that person was a female in the basement. They were able to rescue her, get her out, and perform CPR before going to hospital in life-threatening condition with critical injuries.
Crews arrived and we were able to rescue a victim from the basement unit. Unfortunately, she was vital signs absent, but our partners at Paramedic Services were able to revive her. She was taken to a local trauma center where she remains in critical condition.
A second person on the main floor was able to get out on their own, but also went to hospital. Fire crews say the investigation is underway, and because of the seriousness of the female's injuries, the Ontario Fire Marshal will also be brought in. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Natalie and Pauline, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. A woman is fighting for her life in hospital following a stabbing. Police were called to the area of Danforth and Broadview shortly before 7 a.m. for reports of a woman suffering from stab wounds. She was taken to hospital with critical injuries. A man was arrested nearby in connection with the incident. The circumstances leading up to the woman being stabbed remain under investigation.
Ontario's Court of Appeal has ordered a new trial for a man convicted of murdering an Etobicoke girl more than 30 years ago. Timothy Reese was convicted of second-degree murder in the death of 10-year-old Darla Thurrott in 1989. He was convicted in 1990 and granted parole in 2016. The Court of Appeal concluded there was a miscarriage of justice in the case because a police interview with another suspect was not disclosed. Now it is up to the Crown prosecutors to decide whether to pursue a new trial against Reese.
The SIU is investigating a two-vehicle collision on Highway 400. It says an OPP cruiser and a civilian vehicle collided on the 400 near Finch Avenue. The highway was completely closed from the eastbound and westbound 401 ramps to Black Creek Drive in North York. Both the OPP officer and the driver of the other vehicle were taken to hospital, though there has been no word on their condition. The SIU says an investigation is ongoing.
And another investigation is ongoing after a pedestrian was struck and killed in Vaughan last night. York Regional Police say the pedestrian was struck by a tractor trailer in the area of Highway 7 and Islington Avenue around 7:30 p.m. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene. The tractor trailer did not immediately stop. However, the driver has since been located and arrested. So far, no word on any charges.
York Regional Police say frontline officers will soon be equipped with body-worn cameras. The service says those devices will be rolled out next spring after the approval from the YRP Service Board this week. In a press release, police say the initiative is aimed at delivering transparency and accountability while enhancing the safety of both citizens and officers. They also note the step follows the introduction of body cameras by other GTA police agencies, and more public consultations are scheduled for the new year. And still to come, people are on the hunt for Black Friday deals. Today we'll have more on the shopping spree a little later in the show.
But first, the Ford government is appointing an administrator to take over the province's real estate regulator. The move is in response to handling of the IPRO Realty scandal. Public and Business Service Delivery Minister Stephen Crawford says he has heard from consumers, boards, realtors, and brokers who have lost confidence in the regulator. Back in May, RECO discovered that the co-founders of iPro allegedly used $8 million from trust accounts that were meant for down payments and commissions, and instead used the money for operating expenses and payments to investors. But the regulator didn't close the firm or freeze its assets until August.
Next to a story about an extraordinary 8-year-old girl who was battling a rare medical condition that has left her parents with more questions than answers.
Her family now on a quest to fund research into a treatment amid hope that they are getting closer to a cure.
What's that called?
At home on the piano,
G sharp to B to E.
8-year-old Penny's practice is music to her dad's ears.
Penny is a happy kid. She's incredibly resilient and persistent. She's a bright light.
A bright light who is growing up with a medical challenge that is far from black and white.
As you can imagine, for any parent, it's incredibly overwhelming and worrying to get a diagnosis for your kid, especially when the doctors that you're seeing don't know really what the condition is.
Where are you going, Penny?
It all began when Penny was a baby, struggling to crawl.
It's in the cups, Penny.
And meet other motor milestones.
No, you have to do jumping.
For 5 years, she underwent relentless testing before full genetic sequencing revealed a diagnosis, an ultra-rare form of muscular dystrophy called selenon-related myopathy.
It was something that gave us one answer, that answered the big why, and this is why she has these muscle problems, but it only leads to more questions.
Penny's family learned that the condition would affect her muscles over time, including those that she needs to breathe.
I can't run as fast, and my legs get tired really easily. You helping your sister?
But there was no cure, no treatment.
Those sleepless nights, just like worried and feeling totally helpless and alone. And just in the middle of the night, one night, I remember at 3 a.m., I decided I'd start with like a GoFundMe.
That first fundraising soon blossomed into a full-fledged charity Penny's promise was born.
Medical research is incredibly expensive, and when there is no funding except for the families themselves, it puts an enormous pressure on us to find the money to pay for this.
We're doing all the best things we can.
18 months later, through 2 galas, monthly pledges and more, Penny's promise has now raised more than $300,000 for medical research.
It's always so difficult to predict, but I think that our hope is we will be able to develop a treatment that can be tested in children or even adults with Selenon myopathy sometime in the next 5 years.
Maybe one day in the far future, when we've got an answer for Penny, we can help other rare disease families that have such a heavy load to bear.
A heavy load that Penny's family lives with every day as they search for a cure.
Penny's promise is our promise to our daughter. We won't let her grow up without doing everything we possibly can. It's your fair part.
As Penny shines, lighting up their lives.
All right, you gonna hit it off the top?
A multi-day snowstorm is expected to continue in central Ontario today after several areas up north were blanketed on Thursday. Environment Canada issued snow squall warnings, saying areas off Georgian Bay and Owen Sound could get up to 50 centimeters of snow. Toronto is expected to mostly be spared from heavy snowfall, but the outskirts of the GTA from Milton to Oshawa could see 5 up to 15 centimeters with strong winds. And here's a live look at the city this afternoon. It is very windy out there today. We do expect conditions to improve around Toronto as the day goes on, but we're bracing for another round of active weather this weekend. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
Yeah, Natalie, that active weather for this weekend will come in the form of system snow as opposed to snow squalls, but we're still dealing with some pretty powerful squalls at this hour, especially through Kitchener-Waterloo down toward Hamilton. The east end of the GTA really getting hit this morning. Areas like Uxbridge over toward Oshawa and then extending further east into Bowmanville, Port Perry, the Scugog area. It has been very snowy today. Just a few flurries around other parts of the GTA with the possibility of a little more as the day persists. Still some snow squall watches and warnings, moderate to high impact, yellow and orange levels. A couple of special weather statements remaining in place too. It is windy. The winds right now are starting to come from a northwesterly direction in Toronto. We're at 2 degrees right now, but it feels like -4 once you take those winds into consideration. And this is our forecast daytime high for today, a little below seasonal. We're going to take you through that weekend forecast coming up. For now, Pauline, I'll send it over to you.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. Well, today is Black Friday. Thousands of shoppers are expected to head to malls across the country, but it comes as many are facing challenging economic times. CTV's Scott Hurst is live at the Eaton Centre. He joins us now with more. Scott, set the scene for us. What are you seeing in terms of crowds? What type of demand are you seeing?
Good afternoon, Pauline. The mall swung open at 8 o'clock this morning, and now the crowds are starting to swell here in downtown Toronto at the Eaton Centre. I can step away and let you take a look at the crowds. And what we're hearing from retail analysts is that there wasn't the same demand right at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you remember Black Friday from 10, 15 years ago, there were massive lineups before malls, before stores even opened. That's not really the case these days, but Black Friday is still just as important for malls, for retailers, in order to get people to really start or kickstart their Christmas shopping, as this has been deemed really the holiday shopping season or the kickoff of the holiday shopping season. We spoke with some shoppers earlier who weren't quite as impressed with the sales that they were hoping for, but were still taking in everything that Black Friday has to offer. Here's what they had to say.
It's my birthday, so I was going birthday shopping, and then I'm also Christmas shopping for my friends. I'm looking to spend at least like around 200. I think it's fair to get, good gifts for my friends.
I think it's kind of nice when everyone's all together doing the same thing. You kind of get to see a lot more of the people in the city.
It's not as busy as I thought it would be. Stores were open earlier, so that was good. Yeah. But there weren't really any sales where we went.
Now, budgets are under a lot of stress this year. How are Canadians planning to spend during the holiday season, Scott?
Pauline, affordability is, of course, really a top concern for so many Canadians, particularly this year, not just ongoing affordability concerns, but many Canadians are worried about price increases related to tariffs and what that might mean for the consumer products they want. But according to retail analysts and a recent survey from the Retail Council of Canada, Canadians on average are expected to spend relative to what they've been spending over the past couple of years, and the Retail Council of Canada has pegged that at about $975 for all the holiday shopping items that you might need. But when it comes to affordability concerns, that is really top of mind. And so how that plays out when people are here shopping for Black Friday, looking for deals, is that people are hyper-focused on deals, and retailers know that. That is one of the reasons why you've been seeing deals being promoted several days ahead of Black Friday and several weeks ahead of Black Friday. And of course, as I mentioned, Black Friday itself, not really the single day phenomenon that we saw in years past, and it's being stretched out over many days. And so the mall representative that we spoke to here from Eaton Centre a short time ago, he said, of course, today will be busy, not as crazy busy as it was in years past, but you can expect the entire weekend to be busy, Pauline.
All right, so not a bad day to head down to the mall. CTV's Scott Hurst, live at the Eaton Centre. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Pauline.
The Law Society of Ontario is taking action against a Brampton lawyer accused of being connected to a global drug trafficking network. Authorities allege the network is run by former Canadian Olympian Ryan Wedding. Deepak Paradkar was arrested last week and faces numerous charges in the U.S. They include allegations he advised Wedding that the case against him would be dismissed if he murdered a key witness. The Law Society says it is seeking an order to have Paradkar's license suspended or restricted, citing the serious criminal offenses he is facing. Paradkar is currently awaiting extradition proceedings.
Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith signed an energy cooperation agreement yesterday, laying out plans for a new bitumen pipeline to the Pacific. However, new polling from Angus Reid suggests the path to completing the project will be complex.
Nationally, there is support for this concept. When we ask Canadians, would you support the concept of an Alberta, BC, Northern Pipeline, 60% say yes. Now, that level of support is lower in British Columbia. It's only 53%. And then when you get to asking people who live on Vancouver Island and the north coast of British Columbia, basically where at the terminus of such a pipeline, tanker traffic would presumably come down to get that bitumen to open water, that's where you see the highest level of opposition, the highest level of pushback to such a project.
The agreement includes a carve-out for federal environment laws, including an adjustment to the tanker ban if the project reaches that point. Less than half of people polled by Angus Reid support those changes, with 26% saying the carve-out is the right policy and 21% supporting removing the tanker ban entirely.
BC's government and several First Nations groups have also expressed opposition to the proposed new pipeline. But the deal between Ottawa and Alberta is also highlighting fractures within the federal Liberal Party. Former Environment Minister and one-time climate activist Stephen Guilbeault submitted his resignation from Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet yesterday. He had been serving as Culture Minister, and he says he understands why the PM made the deal, but he opposes it. The Quebec MP cited reasons including environmental concerns and insufficient consultation. Carney said his government shares Guilbeault's fundamental commitment to climate ambition and climate competitiveness for Canada, and he's glad he will continue to offer his important perspectives as a member of the Liberal caucus. Well, Quebec's government is facing pushback after tabling a new bill that adds to the province's crackdown on religious expression.
CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin has more on the new law and those fighting against it.
Quebec is escalating its crackdown on religion in the public sphere. It tabled Bill 9, which covers bans on public prayers and on face coverings from daycare to university, from students to educators. It also prohibits public institutions like hospitals from exclusively offering halal or kosher foods.
We think that when the state is neutral, Quebecers are free.
Some religious and civil liberties groups disagree. They call measures like a ban on organized prayers on streets and in parks without approval of municipalities a radical infringement on rights and freedoms. The polls have shown more support for the measure in Quebec than anywhere else in Canada. The secularism bill also aims to shut down university prayer rooms, including Concordias, where such a space has existed since the 1970s. The Muslim Student Association says the ban would close the door to a safe space where hundreds of students gather every single day.
It's them trying to figure out to fix a problem of extremism, which is, as Quebecers, we're all against it. But is removing such places that haven't caused any harms fixing any of these problems? I don't think so.
The government says all religious expression is equal under the law.
We have the same rules applying to everyone, to every school, to every people.
But the impact, says Dana Noor Ballantyne with the Concordia Student Union, disproportionately affects Muslim women.
People really shouldn't assume that this is going to stop with the bill that we're facing today. Like, in 5 years, am I going to be allowed to wear the hijab at all?
Quebec plans to invoke the notwithstanding clause to shield the law from a charter challenge. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
There is a new warning about sex trafficking in Canada as calls for help from victims hit an all-time high last year.
CTV's Adrian Gabriel has more on how the most vulnerable are being targeted.
Forced into sex work, criminals preyed on Tamia Nagy's vulnerability.
You work 20 hours days. You mainly perform sexual services. You could serve up to 10, 15 clients a day. I was lucky enough that I started out in a strip joint.
Living in poverty in 1998 in Budapest, Hungary, as a 21-year-old, she traveled to Toronto after answering a newspaper ad posted for an overseas nanny.
It was very clear in a very short period of time that the agency is not a real agency. It was an international human trafficking ring.
The Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline received just over 5,100 calls in 2024, an all-time high. A similar number is expected by the end of this year as well.
We need every province in Canada to adapt an anti-human trafficking strategy.
Individuals aren't just being forced into the sex trade. The United Nations has called Canada's temporary worker program a breeding ground for contemporary slavery.
They're using tactics like fear, intimidation, threats, sometimes physical violence and abuse.
Families are also being warned of children being lured through direct messages while playing games on electronic devices.
Young boys, they can also actually be trafficked. Just educate yourself. You don't think it makes a huge difference, but I'm telling you, knowledge is the key.
Nagy was able to escape and has dedicated her life to save someone else from having to walk in her shoes. If you're watching this and believe that you may be a victim or you're concerned about the well-being of someone you know, please call the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline or your local Victim Services Centre. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
U.S. President Donald Trump is vowing to permanently pause all immigration from what he calls third world countries after one of 2 West Virginia National Guards died after being shot by an Afghan national earlier this week. The victim who was killed was Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. The other soldier, Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, remains in critical condition. Trump offered few details about the immigration pause, but said in a post on social media that he plans to remove millions of migrants from the U.S. Officials say the 29-year-old suspect in the fatal shooting entered the U.S. in 2021 through a program that welcomed about 76,000 Afghan refugees.
Ukrainian anti-corruption units have raided the home and office of President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff. 2 national agencies fighting corruption in Ukraine searched the office and apartment, writing on social media that they were given full access. The raids are part of a major investigation into a $100 million energy sector corruption scandal. Zelensky says his chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, has since resigned his post.
The death toll in Hong Kong has risen to at least 128 people following a fire that tore through multiple high-rise apartment buildings. 79 people were injured by the flames and 200 others remain missing. The complex was undergoing renovations at the time. The 32-story towers were wrapped in bamboo scaffolding and green mesh, which is believed to have allowed the fire to spread quickly. 8 people overseeing the work have been arrested for manslaughter, and a corruption inquiry has been launched. Well, the new owners of a storied basilica on the East Coast are working to take the church in a new direction.
As CTV's Garrett Barry tells us, they want to make it a space for everyone.
One of the oldest collections in all of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Most people, when they come in here, they are blown away. They don't know it exists.
Bishop Thomas Mullock's library holds books in 9 languages, many subjects. Some of these titles date back to the 16th century. The Cathedral Basilica Foundation, the new owners of this property, have taken on the task of bringing this space to a new generation. It's the centerpiece of their reimagined basilica property.
Our goal is to see this place buzzing, to see people coming and going, to bringing life and creating new stories.
So this space is no longer the Archbishop's Palace. It's now the Palace Commons. This foundation bought the basilica and these associated properties in 2024. The Roman Catholic Archdiocese was forced to sell this church and all of its other holdings to pay abuse victims, after Newfoundland and Labrador's Court of Appeal found the Archdiocese was responsible for abuse by the Christian Brothers at the Mount Cashel Boys Home Orphanage.
In terms of the purchase of the property, I think we got an enormous amount of support from the public.
The history is deep. Church construction was finished in 1855. There were only about 20,000 people in the city. Its new owners are promising to keep the parish alive. It's getting rent from the Catholic Church, but there's plenty of expenses in a building like this.
63 stained glass fixtures in the building, most of which were put there over a 45-year period between the mid-1800s and the early 1900s.
Not everything is being revealed just yet, but part of the plan is to seek long-term tenants, community groups, arts groups, music groups, to bring a new kind of life into this space.
Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
Lots of festive events happening around southern Ontario this weekend. Santa Claus is coming to a few towns. Here's a look at where you can find him at parades in various parts of southern Ontario this weekend. It's going to be fun. Weather should cooperate for most of these. We'll detail that a little further coming up. Also, the KC holiday train is rolling through the GTA tomorrow with stops in Bowmanville, Oshawa. There's tomorrow night in Toronto, and then Sunday the train will roll through Vaughan and Barrie. Now, we are going to see these snow squalls taper off just in time, but then on Sunday, a Colorado low rolls through, and this one is going to bring us some measurable snow, maybe even a little bit of a slushy mix with some rain mixing in as well. Details are coming up on the other side of this break. You're watching CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
The Maple Leafs will be looking for a second straight win when they face off against the Washington Capitals later today.
Nylander looking for Matthews in front. Willie's alone. Scores! William Nylander just waited for everyone to kind of slide by.
The team is coming off a 2-1 overtime win over the Columbus Blue Jackets on Wednesday. Puck drop for today's game against the Capitals is set for just after 5 p.m. in Washington, D.C.
And everybody's looking forward to a holiday-type weekend. People are getting in the mood for shopping. The weather will be cooperating-ish.
Yeah. We've got snow, we've got squalls, we've got slush. A little bit of everything, right, Lynn?
What more could you ask for, right? And you make a good point. You know, a lot of skating rinks are opening up for the first time this weekend, which we love. There is going to be some festive weather to go along with it, especially on Sunday. It is a different type of snow setup compared to what we've been talking about the last few days. Looks like this time we could have maybe some light shoveling to do here in the GTA. That's if we don't get some rain mixing in, which helps wash away some of the slush. Let's get to your forecast. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. First, though, I have to show you this video coming out of Oshawa this morning. Yes, this is Oshawa, not too far from downtown Toronto. If you're joining us from the core, you may be thinking, I've seen nothing from this lake effect snow event. There's no measurable snow where I live. Meanwhile, it is a winter wonderland in some communities not far from downtown. Yeah, pretty snowy morning. Oshawa getting clipped by a pretty potent squall that also impacted areas like Uxbridge over toward the Port Hope area. I know you've been seeing quite a bit of snow through this morning and now the early part of the afternoon too. Snow squall alerts remain in place. These are warnings, and the impact and confidence level of them high in many areas, but also moderate for communities a little bit closer to the GTA. Still a couple of special weather statements in place too, warning of some blowing flurries, but here in the city of Toronto, any special weather statements have come to an end. That's not to say we won't see some light snow today. In fact, flurries are still likely. We're just not expecting the measurable snow in downtown Toronto. But you can see those squalls, which at their most powerful start to look like almost like a fire hose of powerful snow moving off the Great Lakes. That's what we've been dealing with. We're going to see things settle down, though, as we make our way into the night tonight. Those snow squall bands are going to start to retreat. The winds are going to taper off. That, too, is great news. And then Saturday is a much drier day. Here's a look at midday. Mix of sun and cloud in many areas. Here comes Sunday, though, technically overnight and into Sunday. We wake up to some snow here in the GTA. By about the noon hour, temperature should climb for us to see maybe some rain mix in, especially the closer you are to the shoreline of Lake Ontario. And again, this could lead to a bit of a slushy mess. But by the time all is said and done, I can't rule out the possibility of maybe 5 centimeters of snow here locally. So plan your Sunday accordingly. Things will taper off as we make our way into Sunday night. Winds, again, are going to start to ease starting tonight and into tomorrow. We're already at 2 degrees right now. That is our forecast daytime high for today. Overnight tonight, it's going to be quite cold. We're falling to a low of -5 degrees. And here's a look at the 7-day forecast. So we do warm up somewhat over the weekend. There's Sunday at 4. First day of December on Monday is going to be chilly, but it looks like we will enjoy a nice mix of sun and cloud. That's the weather for now. Pauline, over to you.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. The mayor and other dignitaries were in Scarborough today to break ground on what they're calling Canada's largest co-op housing development in a generation. The project is called Kennedy Green. It will be going up in a former commuter parking lot on city-owned land next to Kennedy Station. The city says the site will deliver 612 new affordable homes in collaboration with the federal government's Cooperative Housing Development Program. Those units will be spread across 2 co-op buildings with a mix of studios, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments.
When you see this building rise, remember this. Your mayor and city council and your member of parliament, your federal government chose a different path, a path that declare homes are for people, not just profit. Okay? It's not just a home, it's a community. We are delivering more affordable Toronto building, the city we remember, where everyone belongs.
The mayor says the project was approved in record-breaking time, and it's one of almost 100 city-owned sites that could be converted into housing.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, pushing to protect investors. We'll have more on regulators trying to keep up with market manipulation.
Cases of market manipulation are on the rise as regulators try to keep up with deceptive tactics that are making some people millions and robbing others.
As W5's John Woodward reports, advocates are pushing for new measures to protect investors.
Randy Manzardo spends his retirement in Coquitlam, BC gardening. His tomatoes are growing fast. His stocks, not so much. His retirement plans are in jeopardy.
It's disheartening and it made me a bit angry.
He invested tens of thousands in one stock in particular, Quantum Biopharma, believing their drug for multiple sclerosis showed great promise in mice.
When they put these announcements out about how good this was, it would drop. And I've done enough investing that when there's a great announcement, it doesn't drop, it goes up.
Randy thought something was up, and so did the people at Quantum Biopharma. They've sued Canadian banks, alleging their stocks were driven down by a market manipulation tactic known as stock spoofing, demanding $700 million in compensation. The banks have denied this.
Quantum is just an example of what's happened to the whole sector.
Terry Lynch is the CEO of Save Canadian Markets. He believes spoofing is on the rise. Players using computer programs or algorithms he calls algos, faking orders by the thousands to drive stocks down. They profit, he says, by short selling, essentially a bet that a stock will drop.
And it's just they just have algos making, you know, $1,000 here and $500 there and $300 there, and you make it on 200 companies. It adds up to real money over time.
Stock spoofing prosecutions in the United States show that techniques that were cutting edge just a few years ago have now become much easier to do at scales never before imagined. American authorities have been busy. The largest settlement so far, J.P. Morgan Chase paid $920 million to settle allegations of hundreds of thousands of fake orders. They're also prosecuting Canadians operating there. That includes an alleged stock manipulation case of an Ontario man, Alexander Milrud, whose network in Korea was allegedly making more than $1 million a month. And TD Bank paid more than $20 million to resolve charges relating to a former trader's alleged actions. Spoofing is illegal in Canada. Records show the number of proceedings against so-called market manipulators has doubled from just 5 in 2022 to 10 last year. But in that time, total fines never rose above $1.05 million.
What we need is the court systems to send some messages out there to say, hey, we need to stop this. You need to be punished, and now you need to get reform.
Lynch believes another way to stop spoofing is to take the profit out. He's pushing for restrictions on short selling. A report for the Ontario government recommended some short selling restrictions. That was 5 years ago. It's still in progress. We caught up with Ontario's finance minister.
Where are we on those recommendations and protecting investors?
We expect all market participants to follow the rules.
You might be aware of a lawsuit that alleges even some of the big banks were engaging in some predatory practices like stock spoofing. I mean, is it so widespread that even the big players are doing this?
Look, we have enforcement, and everyone's got to follow the rules. I'm not going to comment on anything in front of tribunals or courts right now. But make no mistake, we are always there to protect the good actors and go after the bad actors.
Over in BC, Randy appreciates the sentiment, but he doesn't feel he can compete.
It's such an uneven playing field for an average guy like me.
He's hoping his quantum stock turns around because he's not sure he wants to take another risk with his retirement. John Woodward, CTV News.
Still to come this hour, Black Friday sales are underway, but many online shoppers are pining for a return to the brick and mortar experience. We ask what is behind the nostalgia when we come back. Well, it is Black Friday, and shoppers are hunting for deals, including online, but so many are reminiscing about the days of brick and mortar retail shopping. For more on this trip down memory lane, we are joined live by Sam East, host with 99.9 Virgin Radio for our regular segment, Chronically Online. Sam, why are people pining for the good old days?
Well, nostalgia always has its way of coming back, right? What's old is new again. People are having this conversation online, reminiscing about the days that they would have to wake up at the crack of dawn and line up at their local Best Buy or department store to get that deal. So that is the conversation that is going on online right now, including tweets like these, talking about the old times, maybe lining up at Best Buy, standing in line for midnight Black Friday with my friends from 2010 to 2013 was so much fun. The problem is back then, a $600 TV was marked down to $200, and now the same TV on Black Friday is $999. And another person saying that they yearn for the experience that their parents had going shopping for the kids early morning of Black Friday. People are lamenting that, you know, everything's online now. Everything's so convenient. We've lost that sort of rush, that urgency to get into the store. I don't know about you, Natalie. What do you prefer? Being in person, getting to see the products, or maybe just being in the comfort of your home in your sweatpants shopping online?
You know, it's nice to do it from the couch at 11:30 p.m. without battling the crowds, but I do understand that there is, you know, some excitement and fervor around actually battling it at the mall. It's harder to do with the kids. So I guess I'll vote online on that. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The idea of maybe having my sweatpants on, maybe a glass of wine, not having to like worry about elbowing other people out of the way for a good deal,
It sounds pretty nice. Though I understand what people are talking about, I like my sweatpants.
Exactly. And you can order more online. Moving on, Canadians celebrated Thanksgiving last month, but it is now turkey time south of the border. And you have more on a special connection that two people made nearly a decade ago over Thanksgiving. What's the update there?
Natalie, this is the most wholesome content on the internet. It restores your faith in humanity. So you might recall the Thanksgiving grandma from 2016. She accidentally sent a text to a young man who was only 16 years old at the time, talking about coming over for dinner. And he's like, "Who's this?" And she goes, "It's your grandma." And then they exchange pictures of each other. And he's like, "Well, you're not my grandma, but can I come over for dinner anyway?" And since then, that started this tradition between a man named Jamal and the woman who's famously now Thanksgiving grandma, who year after year, they get together and uphold this tradition. So it really just warms your heart. Yes, it's not Thanksgiving here, but I love hearing this story. I hope they never stop this tradition. It's just so pure.
I love this story, and I'm so glad to hear that that tradition continues. Well, thank you, Sam. You can hear Sam on 99.9 Virgin Radio on weekdays between 2 and 5 p.m. Thanks, Sam. We'll chat soon.
Have a good weekend.
Well, U.S. Thanksgiving may be over, but for the long weekend, it's many Americans are still celebrating, and they're expected to boost the debut of a new animated sequel.
We took an oath to make the world a better place, and an innocent snake needs our help.
Zootopia 2 is expected to bring in up to $150 million U.S. over the 5-day holiday period that Hollywood tends to focus on around American Thanksgiving. That will be enough to claim the crown from Wicked for Good in its second weekend, although the musical sequel is still expected to bring in another $90 million across North America over that same span.
And as we head into the weekend, there are some major service disruptions to keep in mind for passengers on the TTC and GO Transit. Line 1 trains will stop running at 11:59 p.m. tonight between Osgoode and College. Shuttle buses will run. Then on Saturday and Sunday, there will be no service on Line 2 between Kipling and Jane stations thanks to planned track work. Shuttle buses will also operate for that closure with regular service resuming on Monday. And for GO Transit passengers, Barrie Line trains will only run between Allendale, Waterfront, and Rutherford GO all weekend. Passengers will then take replacement buses to Highway 407 station where they can transfer to the TTC. For passengers heading into Toronto, Kitchener GO trains will only go as far as Bramalea GO. Riders on that line will also be bused to Highway 407 station for further connections. Still to come this hour, a Christmas tree has gone up in Ottawa's Byward Market to mark the holiday season, but it is facing some stiff competition in the nation's capital for the tallest tree. To the nation's capital now, where a Christmas tree has gone up in the Byward Market for the holiday season.
However, there remains debate over whether it's the tallest holiday tree in the city. CTV's Dylan Dyson takes a look.
For Natalie Martel, a Christmas tree this big is picture-worthy.
Me and my son, who lives in France, get together at Christmas time and we visit Christmas markets, and we usually end up being in awe of some gigantic Christmas tree. So last Thursday at the illumination of this tree, I came by, and although it was nice, I was a little underwhelmed.
That tree was a stand-in until this one was ready. But this tree...
It's big. It's pretty big.
The Byward Market District Authority says its new Christmas tree is the tallest in the city.
This tree is 48 feet. I hear that the base and diameter is about 20 feet. And we know that we have a number of large trees in the city. The Rideau Center, that one's quite tall. I don't know the height of that. But I believe this one is taller than the one at Lansdowne.
I was at the Lansdowne lighting, and I think this one is, yeah, it's taller.
And they would be right. The tree in front of the Aberdeen Pavilion at the Ottawa Christmas Market comes in at 40 feet. And while it may have the most decorations, the tree inside the Rideau Center measures a mere 36 feet tall.
It's going to be fabulous. I love Christmas, and seeing a Christmas tree, especially that big,
Wow.
With the city's tallest tree going up and Christmas markets already in full swing before December, it seems Ottawa is officially in the holiday spirit.
From the outside looking in, as a spectator, it looks to me like it's been very well received. We don't have any data specifically, but everyone seems to be enjoying it, and there definitely has been some major crowds where I've been.
Already there's a star up top, so I'm excited.
Dylan Dyson, CTV News.
And speaking of trees, we've got some tree lighting happening in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
The big Nathan Phillips Square tree gets lit tomorrow, so tell us what the weather will be like.
I think the weather's going to be okay for tomorrow. Saturday plans are looking good. Snow squalls are going to taper off. Sunday, things get a little more interesting once again. But let's rewind it back to today. Here's a look at our current satellite and radar. We continue to see snow for the east end of the GTA through Barrie, Kitchener-Waterloo, and south toward Hamilton. Alerts remain in place. These are gradually going to come to an end later today and into tomorrow. It's going to be cold tonight. If you do have Friday evening plans, bundle up. -5 degrees, that's the core temperature, and it is going to feel colder than that once you take the winds into consideration. There's your weekend forecast. Sunday, we are forecasting once again some snow. There might be some rain mixing in, but in any case, plan on a couple of slushy centimeters that day. Monday, we officially welcome December. Next week looks pretty good. Pauline and Natalie.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching. I'm Natalie Johnson.
And I'm Pauline Chan. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 6. See you then.